Today we welcome Alexis, the self-love coach. Alexis is an extraordinary individual who guides and empowers others to become the best version of themselves.
Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of the Iceland Growth Podcast.
Bienvenido.
And today we have Alexis, who is a self-love and confidence coach.
Sí.
Welcome, Alexis. Muy bien.
Thanks. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah,
Pleasure.
very nice. I was... I've seen some of your content online on the Instagrams, and I saw that you focus as a coach on the self-love and the confidence part for people. And I would like to know a bit more, like, how did you get into that? And how did you become a self-love coach?
Okay, so my background's in learning and coaching. So I've been coaching and training for over 15 years, and I started off in corporate. So in corporate finance, I was an executive coach, I was a trainer, etc. And it's amazing doing that, but I felt like I wanted to make a bigger difference. I actually really wanted to help people. So I studied all sorts of methodologies outside of that: rapid transformational therapy, life coaching, energy healing, Psych K. So loads of different methodologies. And basically we teach what we know and what we're most truly passionate about, what we've been through. So my biggest journey, my biggest struggle has been with my relationship with myself and my relationship with my body. So I'm fairly confident now, and I'm confident and happy with how I look and how I feel. But for most of my life, I suffered from massive anxiety, a lot of suicidal depression. I tried to commit suicide when I was 15. Funny story about that. So I took 15 sleeping pills when I was 15. And the ironic thing is, I didn't even get to sleep. So clearly, the universe wanted me to be here.
Well, you didn't even... that had no effect.
No, I had no effect.
Huh.
And as you know, I think I took so much medication when I was younger that just not much affects me now.
Why did you take so much medication when you were younger?
I was in a lot of pain, so I had a lot of health issues. So I was
Like physical pain, both
physical
pains?
pain.
Okay.
So I had about 12 chronic health issues, and separate story to that, but they all disappeared after I went vegan. So I had to learn how to love my body. I had to learn how to love myself. I had to learn how to nourish my body and look after my health, which is why I'm so passionate about this now. And I'm really, really passionate about helping people just really love themselves, their bodies, look after themselves, and just really own who they are and be proud and confident of that and show up however they want to show up and make that okay.
So when you were younger, you didn't love yourself?
No, God, no.
Because of any specific reason? I don't want to go too deep if this is going to blow up some old wounds or something.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. I'm an open book. So there's quite a lot of things. I think with my upbringing, so my heritage, I'm Malaysian Chinese, but I was born and raised in Australia. And as part of my culture, when you're a female, you're taught, you're raised to be the good girl, you're raised to be submissive, you're raised to be subservient, and you don't really matter. So I was told a lot of times I wasn't allowed to do things, that I was useless, that I was stupid. My culture's quite abusive compared to Western culture. So you're put down a lot, and I genuinely believe that I was really stupid. So I was actually saying to my best friend yesterday that the first few grades of school, I was actually nearly failing. Like the first few grades, that's when you're just learning how to spell, you're learning how to paint and do all sorts of things. But it's because I believed I was stupid. And when I was in grade 4, so I think that would have been about 9, 10 years old, my grade 4 teacher came up to me and he gave me this piece of paper. And on that piece of paper, it was like an advanced mathematical problem solving. It was basically like an invite to join like an enrichment club. And there was only 4 students selected out of the 30 students to be part of that club. And I looked at him, I was so confused. And I said to him, I waited till after class. I remember holding that piece of paper and I came up to him and I said to him, remember his name, Mr. Moisiades, I think you made a mistake. Why did you give this to me? And he looked at me, he said, because I think you can do it. And in that moment, I just went, oh my God, if he thinks I'm smart, maybe I could be smart. And then from that moment afterwards, I became like a straight A/B student. I became smart. And at that really early age, I realized, wow, we have so much power within us to change our everything, our physicality, our reality based on our beliefs.
So you realized you could be smart at age 10.
Yeah. Well, I was like, oh my God, if he thinks I'm smart, maybe I'm not stupid. Maybe I could do this.
But then still at age 15, you had the suicide attempt, no? But I mean, I'm guessing that at least on the smartness level, you started to go up after age 10, no?
Mm.
But you still had to fight your family or the other students or, I don't know, society. Why were you so depressed at 15?
Well, I mean, the smartness doesn't directly affect the depressive tendencies, I guess.
At all. No, I'm just trying to find out why she was depressed and how she overcame it. Because this, I think, could be extremely helpful for people going through the same. No?
I think it's an ongoing journey. So the root cause of most of our beliefs is that we're not good enough. And so there's 3 root cause beliefs, right? So we're not good enough, we don't fit in or we don't belong, or what we want isn't available to us, so we're unworthy or undeserving. But 90% of the root cause beliefs is I'm not good enough. And I didn't realize that was so inherently ingrained in me, to the point where I didn't just feel unlovable and unworthy, but I didn't want to be here. And like, I'm not sure how spiritual your community is, but I really believe I'm a starseed. I really, like, from a young age, I remember I was crying and I was 10 years old and I just didn't want to be on this planet. I felt like it wasn't home. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to be in this body. And I couldn't escape that. So no matter how hard I tried, no matter, I was school captain, I was straight A student. I tried my best to be the perfect, good Asian girl. And it never made my parents happy. And no matter what I did, it was never good enough for them. And then it made me realize that it was never good enough for me. And so, those perfectionistic, the overachieving, the people-pleasing, all those tendencies really came out, and it resulted in me just being in toxic relationship after toxic relationship up until coming to Barcelona, really. So
when did you come to Barcelona? At which age? Okay.
Yeah. I was a mess. Like, that's when I met Joshua.
When you got here.
We were both a mess, Alexis. Everybody was a mess. Maybe Luciano not. Actually, Luciano has never been a mess.
No, oh my God. Okay, great. So age 15, that's like the lowest period, and eventually you start turning this around, no?
I don't know. I feel like life's always been a bit of a roller coaster. I'm an empath, so I'm incredibly sensitive. And that was a low point. I had quite a lot of low points. I think they culminated in a lot of toxic relationships. So they were, physically, mentally, emotionally, verbally abusive. And that was probably the lowest point. So I haven't just been suicidal at one stage of my life. I've been suicidally depressed at multiple stages in my life. Obviously not now, but that was the biggest thing. And I remember at all those different stages, it was like, you're racked with like emotional and physical pain, and you just feel like you're in a big black hole and there's no way out. And the only way out that I could see and feel was, maybe I'm going through this so I could help somebody else one day. And that was my only light.
And how did you, because I guess you talked a bit about the beliefs in the beginning, as in, how did you end up changing those beliefs for yourself? So basically you believe that you are not smart, then somebody else was like, hey, I believe in you, and then you started believing in yourself. Now you're a confidence coach, so I guess you also help people to change their beliefs about themselves. And what are some methods that you use or have used for yourself to either remove the old beliefs, or I'm also interested in is it something you basically tell yourself, or physical activities? How does one change their beliefs about themselves?
Really good question. Okay, so there's basically 3 types, right? There's three layers. So if you imagine that you're looking at the iceberg, so the iceberg effect, you see what's on the surface, right? So what's on the surface is what we're consciously aware of. So I liken beliefs that are self-limiting beliefs to weeds. So you imagine if you have one weed in your garden, and if you disregard that weed, what happens when it rains, etc.?
That's more weeds.
It's more weeds, exactly, right? And it goes throughout the garden. So the garden is your life. So if you don't remove that one weed, that one limiting belief, then it grows into every single area of your life, perpetuating every single area, whether or not you're consciously aware of it. So becoming, first of all, this first step is awareness, right? That's conscious awareness. So to become aware of what we believe in, you can read books, you can have conversations, you can go to talk therapy, your regular therapist, etc. And that's when you become aware of, a classic belief of I'm attracted to toxic people or emotionally unavailable people, right? So let's say that's the conscious belief. But what lies below the surface is whatever's subconsciously underneath that. It's not the fact that you're attracted to emotionally unavailable people. It's not the fact that you have a pattern of repeating toxic relationships or that you feel unloved or whatever. The belief underneath that is, well, maybe you believe that love isn't meant for you, that you're unworthy and undeserving. And that's a subconscious belief, right? So you can address that with hypnosis, you can address that with like really deep-seated coaching, and that brings that belief to the conscious level so you can actually see the weed. But then there's a third level, and the third level is energetic. At the end of the day, belief is a story that you tell yourself over and over and over again, whether or not you realize it, whether or not you're conscious and aware of it. And when you tell yourself that story over and over and over again, that energy becomes stored in your body, or it becomes stored in your electromagnetic field. And the way to effectively change that belief or change that story or release that energy is doing all three. So it's becoming consciously aware of that story, it's addressing it on a subconscious level, and it's releasing the stored energy that's within your body, because when you don't, then it manifests into illness.
That's awesome. That sounds an amazing explanation. And what I would like to know is, like, how do you release that? Like, you release that on the third level, the deepest level, the energetic level. Like, what are the things you can do to on this level release it? And is it like a step process? It's first you have to get rid of the energetic, like trauma, and then the second level, or can you work on everything at the same time, or how does one do it, or what's most common?
Okay, so really good question. It depends what the root cause is, right? Because sometimes it's from your childhood, sometimes it's from your life, sometimes it's a belief that you've created, or sometimes it's generational trauma. So epigenetics has shown us that we inherit trauma from 7 generations back and forth. So if it's not even your trauma to begin with, then how the fuck are you meant to know sorry for swearing, by the way, how are you meant to know like where it's coming from and how it's affecting you? You don't. You just feel it within your body. You feel it within your field, right?
I don't know what epigenetics. So what's that 7 generation thing? Can you explain that?
Okay, so what happens is we absorb energy. So we absorb the energy from people, places, and things around us. And if you think about that, right, like let's say you walk into a room and people have been fighting, and you don't even have to see the people, but you can automatically feel that tension.
Possibly. Depends. What do you think? Do you feel that?
I agree. Sometimes you walk into a room and you can cut the tension with a knife. And by epigenetics, I think you mean like it's inherited by DNA. That's
Yes.
what you're saying? Like you inherit from your parents and from your grandparents and blah, blah parents.
Mm-hmm.
If they were scared, you're probably going to be scared.
Yeah. But I would to push back a little bit. Do you both feel that it's the energy, like you saying, without looking at someone? Like, could it not be that you actually do, on a subconscious level, perceive people's body language and the silence it has created and these kind of things, and that is actually what you experience? Or do both of you believe that it's, or know that it's actually an energetic thing?
In my case, the jury's still out. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, of course, body language influences, but sometimes even on the street, a person stands next to you. It happened to me the other day. Beautiful girl walking past me, and I immediately felt kind of repelled from her because there was something weird about it, something dark, something I didn't want to get in touch with. And I actually crossed streets, and she's like, "Yay, hi." Like, head shorter than myself, and it was just this immediate feeling that I don't want to be in touch with this. So maybe there is a lot to this energy thing, but I do think that nowadays, us humans, we are very closed off to it. You need to be kind of open to it to actually experience it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure though. What do you think, Alexis? Are you 100% sure about the energy thing?
Yeah, so Heart Math have measured it, and they measured your electromagnetic field, which is basically, in other words, your aura can span up to 30 meters, so 6 to 30 meters, right? Depending upon how expansive your energy is. But that's also depending upon the type of energy. Are you in a low vibrational frequency or are you in a high vibrational frequency? So it's conversely, it's like if someone walks into a room and you're like, oh my God, they just feel really amazing and I really like them and I don't know why, they just have, and it feels palpable, it's tangible, right? Or, you see a photo or you see content and you're just like, I can just really viscerally feel it from them. So that's in relation to your electromagnetic field. But because, I believe, I know a lot of the spiritual community believe, because we're all connected, right? You think about somebody they call, you think about somebody they text, etc. We're all connected and we're all part of consciousness. So that's like what happens is if you're not, and going back to your question before, if you're not taking responsibility for your energy, for your thoughts, for your feelings, for your beliefs, for your stories, and you're not constantly clearing your own, then what happens is that you're constantly absorbing, whether it be from your own familial trauma, your family, your generations back, family, friends, people, places, things, clients, etc. That's compounding upon you, right? And it's very, very hard to distinguish that and go, okay, well, is this a belief that I have? Is this energy that I have? Is this from past lives, etc.? And that's why I and like a lot of healers, coaches, etc. do the work that we do, because we help you figure out where it's coming from and how to release that. And in answer to your question, it depends on the person, it depends on the situation. Sometimes I help them shift and it's mindset work, or it's just energetic work, or sometimes it's a couple of like breathwork exercises, but it's very intuitive and it depends on what they need in that moment.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, because the whole energy thing, I understand, and I just don't know about the generational type, but I would also say I kind of, at least I'm open to the fact that it exists. And with the belief system, like the third level that you said, it's stored in the body and your energy system around it. I don't know how to define it, but I had a talk the other day with Blanca, my girlfriend, and I was talking about my posture. I think my posture has improved recently, and and I was telling her at the same time that I believe that basically because in the past I was bullied, and then when you're bullied or at a low hierarchical rank, you tend to slump. You tend to make yourself smaller. That's what happens in nature. That's also what happens to human beings. So I realized that my posture was actually better, and that I was feeling better, but also that I guess that it can work both ways. That if you would work on your posture, or for me, it was more like consciously correcting my posture with breathwork exercises. So basically, I would do the breathwork, and then I would really feel like, where is my body positioning right now, and how is my spine aligning, and am I sitting straight? So, but you're not on a conscious level, but in like a deeper state. And I think that led to improvements in my posture. And I think like these things are very heavily connected. So your physical, like your posture, which could also like how your energy is flowing. Let's just say if you're very curled up all the time, I don't think your energy flows well. And if you're, I guess, someone who's, you always see the guys working, or the people who have very open posture, they seem more energetic and everything as well. So, so these specific exercises, like you said, breath work, are there also other things you do? Like how can any other methods that you've done or you do yourself to basically either release temporal energy that you're holding that is not good for you, or like a longer term trauma or energy, how you would define it? Could you name a couple more?
Before, let me clarify something. It's all about the beliefs in the end, no? Either if it's on an energetic level or stored in the body or in your subconscious or wherever it is, it's always about the beliefs, no?
Yes.
And I'm just thinking, same question as Joshua, thinking about a person crying at home, listening to this, and I don't know how to help myself. What would you tell them? Like, I know it's very specific, case specific, but in general guidelines.
Okay. So I'm going to say two things to that. So first of all, in regards to the posture, what you said was right. When you're in flow state, so when you're lit up, and what lit up means is you're doing something that excites you, you're doing something that makes you feel good, your posture automatically changes, right? So when you were saying that, I was like checking our postures, and like when you're doing something where you're in your power, where you feel really lit up and connected to what you're doing and with yourself, then your state changes. So your embodiment changes, right? So like I'm sitting up straight. Normally, like my posture isn't the greatest, but I have the best posture when I'm doing things like this because this lights me up and when I'm working at the gym. Everything else, I'm pretty much slumped because same thing. Like I was bullied a lot, right? So so I guess in saying that, one thing to do to work on that, to feel better about yourself, to change your beliefs, to change your energy is do more things that light you up. Identify
Things you like, you mean?
Yeah, do things that not just like, but what excites you, what brings that flow of energy into your body where you're just like, yes, I feel really good, right? Because that changes, that shifts your energy immediately and it changes your posture.
Would it work the other way around as well? As in, let's say you become, I'm not saying it's a great thing to become hyper-focused on your posture, just basically you're always aware that you're standing straight and you're doing it.
You mean like
training.
Fake it till you make it?
Yeah, like most of the time, that actually
I
is
feel
the
like
thing.
shit, and then you force yourself to smile.
Well, for example, like basically changing your physical posture or appearance or these kind of things. And like I think it has been shown in psychology, the pencil experiment. I don't know if you know it, but if you bite down on a pencil, your face gets like a smiley shape. And then actually,
yeah,
people report feeling
Better.
happier
or
after.
the thing where they go like this.
Exactly, or like
victory
these postures. So actually, like what you're saying, like doing more things that light you up will basically bring you more in that posture, but basically will make you more energetic. But I was wondering, like, how much of it is interchangeable? So does it work both ways? And like, does it matter which you do, or should you do both? Or
Really good question. That comes in alignment with Luciano's question about what do you say to yourself? So how you feel determines your energy, right? So emotions are just energy in motion that course through your body, that course through your aura, your electromagnetic field. What determines that? So what determines that isn't just your beliefs, it's the stories that you tell yourself before they turn into beliefs. So how do you shift it? How do you go from faking it to making it to actually making it where you actually are confident? You get really, really, really self-aware on what story am I telling myself right now in this very moment? Because that can immediately shift your state, right? So for example, let's say, okay, so I was really hangry, and Joshua knows that when I'm hangry, I'm just a feral person to be around. I'm also not a morning person. And yesterday morning, I was sitting there having a coffee at Nudes at this cafe that we always go to. And I was just like, I was hating life. And I was feeling really, really grumpy. And I caught myself because I messaged my best friend and I was like, messaged Ruby and I was like, hey, I'm hating life right now. I really don't want anyone to talk to me. And I'm an extrovert. I love people. I'm effervescent. And I caught myself. I was like, wow, if I'm telling myself I hate life, then how am I showing up? What is my energy like? What am I thinking? What am I feeling, right? So it's the first step is you get really crystal clear on what story are you telling yourself right now in this very moment. So that's step number one.
So how do you become more aware?
And is it always a story? Because I am myself personally, I'm not I don't really have a lot of thoughts in the sense that I'm not very always narrating my own life or basically thinking in words. It's more like things happen. So I'm very more a feeling person. So is it always like a verbalized story, or could you get to the verbalized story, or how does it work?
So we're always telling ourselves stories, whether it be, I'm tired, I'm cranky, I'm hangry, I'm whatever, but that's still a story. It's still a narrative that you're telling yourself. And that story is then creating that emotion that you're feeling, right? So let's say, I don't know, how are you both feeling right now?
Awesome.
Good. A little tired. Good.
Okay, great. So Luciano's story, I'm a little tired, right? So I'm a little tired is a story.
Is it though a story if you didn't have enough sleep?
See, that's a story because you don't have to have a lot of sleep to feel tired or not tired. I barely sleep.
No.
Right?
I can confirm that Alexis barely sleeps and she's the most energetic person I know. But I don't think like science.
Person.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a good thing. Like science probably says 8 hours of sleep. There's been a lot of science, and there's probably limitations towards. But that's the thing with these beliefs. Like if you believe that you need 8 hours of sleep, you need 8 hours of sleep. They also to get a little bit.
Okay. 24 hours of non-eating.
Yes.
Anybody would be hungry. Anybody. Is it still a story at this stage?
Well, it depends on how you're conditioned, right? Because there's been studies proven that there's
Well, maybe if you do Ramadan.
Ramadan, there's crazy Buddhist
hungry
monks.
Or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, that just don't eat for ages and they're just meditating and they're in perpetual states of bliss.
But all I'm saying is sometimes I don't think it's a story. Sometimes it's what's actually happening, no?
Yeah, but what actually happening is still a story in a sense, I guess. I mean, it might be happening, but you can still, with your belief system, basically, I guess, shift your attention towards a different perspective. Like you can be hungry, but you can also be happy and hungry. Understand? Like you don't have to shift your focus toward that thing.
Like Viktor Frankl explains in the book, no?
Like I don't know. Yeah.
The guy who went to the Nazi camp and even though he was hungry, cold and whatnot, he was still okay.
Exactly. So I guess it doesn't have to be a story, the hunger, but most people choose on a subconscious level to create a story out of it, to basically to give it more weight than the fact of being hungry. Being hungry is not the end of the world, but I guess the story created around it, and for myself is the same. But if I don't sleep well, like I'm my own worst enemy, I'll make it way worse than it has to be probably. And I think that's then it becomes a story.
So you realize that you're telling yourself any kind of story, but how to the person that's now in the black hole of depression, how can you get out of it? Because at that stage, it's super hard. You don't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
That's right. So let me just clarify. So story is your perception of your reality, right? So there are facts that happen, like COVID, right? That's a fact that happened. Everyone in the world was affected by COVID. That's a fact. But how you perceived that reality is your story.
Some people had a great time. Some people had a horrible time.
Exactly. So it's whatever you're telling so a story is basically whatever you're telling yourself, whatever narrative you're saying to yourself in your head. I'm hungry, I'm tired. Doesn't matter what the reason is for it. It's whatever you're saying to yourself. So that's step number one. It's catching, like, what am I saying to myself right now? Because that's bringing self-awareness to yourself and taking self-responsibility, right? So the second step is, okay, what am I actually feeling? What emotion are you actually feeling? And getting crystal clear on that and identifying that. And when you can identify what emotion you're actually feeling, you start to move into that, okay, I'm taking self-responsibility because I am making myself feel this way.
No, makes sense.
Right? And when you can identify all the feelings, I'm feeling fear, guilt, shame, etc., you don't have to go into why. The reason why I say you don't have to go into why is because we can get stuck in that loop. And if you get stuck in that loop going, oh my God, like, whatever, my boyfriend cheated on me and here's all the reasons why. And what you're doing is then you're conditioning your body to get addicted to that emotional and physical response. And that's why people can be depressed for so long. So calling out, going, okay, so here's a story I'm telling myself. I'm not worthy and deserving of love. What that's making me feel is that it's making me feel really, really sad. It's making me feel really angry. It's making me feel really afraid. Like, what happens if I end up alone? It's making me feel that I'm not good enough and that maybe I'll never find love. Like, whatever it's making you feel, it's like, allow yourself to really fully express that. Voice it out loud, write it, journal it, cry, whatever, but it's allowing yourself to really go into that feeling and get it out of you, right? And each feeling, only, like Harvard School did studies on this, each feeling, when it courses through your veins, only lasts for 90 seconds when you feel into it in its entirety.
Yeah.
Right?
Or that's probably the very maximum. I think if you truly let it in, like, it passes very quickly. Exactly.
And see, when people don't believe this, or people go, well, no, I'm feeling crap for the entire day. It's because you're feeding yourself more stories. You're back into that loop. You're back into that hamster wheel to make yourself feel that way. But when you go, okay, one story, one emotion or a couple emotions, and you go into it fully. And this is a thing, like we're conditioned to really embrace pleasure over pain. So it's like, what can I do to distract myself, to numb myself so I don't feel this? Drink, alcohol, sex, food, whatever. Like social media. What can I do to not feel this way? When the easiest and quickest thing is to allow it to course through and actually go into that and go, okay, well, that was a great use of 90 seconds because now it's gone or it's passed through.
But
So that's the second step.
won't this feeling always come back if you don't change your external reality?
Okay, really, really good point. So then that leads me to the third step. So the third step is you've got to change your story because now that you're aware of that narrative, you don't want it to come back, right? And remember, your reality, your perception of your reality is created by your perception, which is your stories you're telling yourself. So you've got to change that narrative. So there's 2 shortcut ways you can do it, right? If you just say to yourself an affirmation like, I'm lovable, then your brain's going to go, no, you're full of shit. Because, and that's a very large reason why affirmations aren't that effective, right? It's just like saying to a homeless person, if you keep saying to yourself, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, first of all, the homeless person is probably going to give you the finger because it is simply not fathomable in that state, in the energetic state that they're in. It's not reality, right? So you have to lie, trick, and basically lie, trick, and steal from your brain and go, okay, well, what can we do? What game can we play in order for you to actually adopt this new belief that I'm trying to feed you?
What games can we play?
Yes, exactly. So there's 2 ways to do it. So one way to do it is you say, I choose to believe, because then you're telling your brain what to do. You're telling your mind, your brain, your ego what to do. I choose to believe that I am worthy and deserving of love. I choose to believe that I can be successful. I choose to believe that I can have what I want, right? So that's one way to do it because instead of just going, I'm a millionaire or, everybody loves me,
But isn't that just wording?
It is.
Yes, and deep down, you're still not believing, right?
Okay, good point. So it's catching us. So there's 2 ways, right? So one of the ways is catching yourself in that moment and changing that narrative. So you've got to become really self-aware and conscious. So remember that weed analogy that I gave you? This stuff, like these 3 steps addresses the first layer. It's like you're mowing the grass. But sometimes if you're that connected to yourself and you're that, like you've allowed that emotion to flow out of you, then that's all you need. Sometimes you can change the story and release that belief and that energy and that emotion in that instant, and it's gone and doesn't come back again, right? So an example of this, when I was, in my early 20s, and I went to talk therapy, and the belief that came out, the story that came out was all men lie and cheat. And I was like, oh my God, what kind of love life have I been reliving if I believe that all men lie and cheat, right? So then I had to adopt new beliefs, okay? I choose to believe. Then the other point of that is, yes, how you change your external reality. You change your external reality by focusing on what you want to focus on. So RAS, your reticular activating system. Do you guys know about that?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
I don't remember. She told me actually.
Okay, so your reticular activating system is a bundle of nerves that sits at the top of your spinal column, right? Now, your reticular activating system picks up on 4 of the 5 senses, and it brings all of that into your reality. That's why everyone experiences a different reality, because your reality is determined by what you're focusing on, but what subconscious and unconscious beliefs and conscious beliefs that you have. But that's dictated by your RAS, because your RAS will go, okay, great. Well, I like blue eyes. You both have blue eyes, so I'm going to focus on blue eyes. Or, when you want to buy a red car, then automatically you start to see all the red cars on the road.
It basically filters out the things that you consciously or subconsciously believe or see in the world. Your reality is created.
Exactly. So your RAS is your reticular activating system, capital R, capital A, capital S for short, and that acts as your filter, or like I like to call it your antenna. So it's like you're a bug, and the antenna goes, "Ooh, I'm going to pick up on all of these things," right? And that's scientific, right? That's how your brain works. So that brings into your awareness what you see, what you smell, etc. So that's the power of literally changing your stories. And then answer to your other question, well, okay, so I choose to believe that doesn't work for you, which, personally, that doesn't really work for me. That works for a lot of people. But the most effective way I've found to be able to change as that story in the moment is you have to challenge your brain. And like Tony Robbins says, the quality of your life depends upon the quality of questions that you ask yourself. So you flip it. You go, okay, well, instead of, I'm going to use relationships as the analogy because it's the easiest one that a lot of people can relate to. Instead of going, okay, well, I only attract X, Y, Z, what do you want instead? You want to feel loved. You want to feel appreciated. You want to feel cherished. You want to feel respected. So, okay, you identify what do you actually want to feel instead? What do you want to experience instead? And then you formulate that into an empowering question. So, why do I always feel so loved and appreciated and respected in all my relationships? Because that's a question that you're asking yourself.
But ain't your brain at that stage telling you again, liar, liar, pants on fire?
Good point. It's not because it's not an affirmation. You're not telling yourself, you're asking yourself. So when you ask yourself a question, what does your brain automatically do?
Look for answers.
Exactly. So you're programming, you're priming your RAS to go, okay, well, why does everybody love me? Why am I so confident? Why am I whatever, right? And then you're priming yourself to go, okay, well, let's look for all these things in my awareness, in my surroundings that support this because I've just asked myself a question.
I mean, I guess both can work. No, as in also it sounds like a trick, but tricks can work. As in we have that can definitely be tricked.
Trick your brain, 1,000%.
So summing up, you need to find your limiting belief, be aware of it, and then train it the other way.
Yeah. So we'll identify what the story is, feel into the emotion fully. It's not going to be it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly as hell and it's going to hurt, but that's how you release the energy. And then third, reframe it.
What about if you add to that, because you say release the energy, like if I think about when I really changed my life, it's been a couple of times, and most of the times it was like I was rock bottom and I was feeling very like I was done with it, but you would just feel like this kind of profound emptiness. Doesn't have to be a bad emptiness, but just empty, like basically freed of everything you had and then ready to change into a different direction. So what comes to mind with what you've been saying, like would you also recommend, I don't know, let's say to drain yourself of that energy, like combining it with like heavy physical activity like exercise or maybe meditation before, like to change, basically to make yourself more receptive for what's to come, or maybe to add it in a package deal to add like to super trick your brain and to maybe accessing the lower parts of your brain, the subconscious that you normally don't really can, or is difficult to reprogram. But maybe if you change your state, it might be easier to reprogram.
Absolutely. So that 3-step process works amazingly well, but it can work for you instantaneously if that's all that's required. If it's not that deep-seated, or that it's, let's say if it's your own stuff and it's not generational trauma, or it's not past life trauma, or it's stuff that you can easily identify, right? Because sometimes you just feel like shit. You're like, I don't know why I feel like shit. I just feel like shit. It's because you've absorbed somebody else's energy. So there's a load of different ways to release energy, right? So there's breath work, there's working out, there's like embodiment movement, and it depends what practice resonates with you. So everyone is really, really different. So the client that I had yesterday, we did a combination of energy work, we did a combination of breath work, we did purging. What else did we do?
Purging.
So purging is like vomiting. So in this state, he didn't vomit, but it's like you're energetically vomiting, right? So you're energetically releasing trauma, right? So there's a myriad of different ways, and that's why like I work with people on all 3 levels, because it's finding out, okay, so what do you need right now in this very moment that resonates with you? And at the same time, what we identified for him was he had a hormonal imbalance. I was like, okay, great. What other supplements can you take right now to complement that as well? Because when you look at someone and you're trying to help them as a whole, it's got to be holistic. It can't be, let's just do mindset work, or let's just do breath work, or let's just do energy work. No, you are a multifaceted human being. There's mind, body, and energy factors to consider. So how can we look at all of that in order for you to release as much as possible, so you have that space, so you have that energetic space, that mental clarity, that capacity, because your energy is either contracted or expanded, right? And if it's contracted, you could journal all you want, you could do all the affirmations you want, you could run 5 marathons, If your energy is contracted, you're just not going to receive.
What is it? How do you define contracted energy?
Okay, so contracted energy is generally when you're in a low vibrational state. So that's when you're feeling. Do you guys know the scale of consciousness?
No.
Yep. But please do explain.
Okay. So
Because it's not about us two.
very
It's for all our listeners.
Around the world.
Okay, so Dr. David Hawkins measured vibrational frequencies and he created a scale of consciousness. So basically your highest vibrational frequency. So this is when you're feeling really freaking amazing. The highest mode that we can achieve, which I dare say we're probably not going to achieve this in this lifetime for us, is enlightenment. And none of that is peace, love, and joy. So that's essentially what we want to aim towards. And what he measured was their very high vibrational frequencies. You know, people talk about good vibes and high vibes. That's what essentially that's what essentially they mean, right? But low vibrational frequencies are fear, guilt, shame, anger, etc. And that's when you feel low. That's why people say, "Oh, I'm feeling really low today." But what happens is when you're in low vibrational frequencies, your energy is dense, your energy is heavy. It feels like, you know how people are like, "Oh, like I just don't want," like you were talking about with that beautiful girl, you literally crossed the street to get away from her. She was probably in a low vibrational frequency, right? So her energy was very dense. It was probably very heavy. And what that means is if your energy is dense and heavy, you're in a contracted state. Like your physicality is in a contracted state. Your energy is in a contracted state. Your aura isn't magnanimous. Your aura, your electromagnetic field isn't really open, and you're not radiating energy. Right?
So it's both that energetic field that has a direct effect on or is the same as your muscular system that actually is physically contracting.
Yeah.
And if you're in a high vibrational state, your body / muscles are the more relaxed setup, I don't know, like something like this. Okay.
Yeah. But you can also be fit as fuck and work out all the time, but be in a low vibrational state. Right? Because remember, we're multifaceted. There's your energy, there's your mind, and there's your body.
And you see those dudes at the gym, they're just angry.
Yeah.
Because they shoot the testosterone in their asses, probably.
Hopefully not in the asses.
They do it in their asses. Not in their assholes, but like in the pinch.
Moving on.
In the butt cheeks, Luciano.
And the butt cheeks. Question, because lately I've seen a lot of coaches around the world. Doesn't it frighten you sometimes that you could be giving the wrong advice? Because mainly with energy and vibrational states and all of this, a lot of people are still reticent, is that the word? Are still defensive against all of this. So even if you weren't about all this, I would still be worried, like maybe I'm fucking this guy up, or this girl, or whatever. Has this ever happened to you? Cross your mind?
Define wrong.
Let's say you advise the guy, okay, you just keep repeating to yourself that you deserve love and that you're amazing or whatever, and it doesn't work. It makes him get worse, more depressed or whatever. So this guy, instead of helping, even though you did it with the best intention, he went downhill. And around the world, especially on Instagram, sometimes I see these coaches that don't seem very prepared. You know what I mean? Not you specifically, of course, but I mean, just has it ever happened to you?
Really good question. So I've studied a lot of different methodologies and I've been in a lot of different cohorts with a lot of coaches, healers, therapists, etc. And what I found was when you do that, you're essentially subscribing to one person's ideology or one person's belief, right? Like somebody has created a school of thought that you've enrolled in, that you're studying, that you're practicing. And at the end of the day, what's truth? Your truth is your intuition. So I tried both ways. I went, straight down the line. I was like, yes, I'm just doing rapid transformational therapy. I'm just doing it this way. I'm just doing hypnosis, etc. And it didn't feel aligned for me. And so conversely, what I found, the most effective healers, coaches, therapists, whatever, people out there to help, the ones that do the greatest good in the world are ones that are really, really in tune with themselves, and they're acting from a space of intuition, because then they're channeling, right? So you're channeling information from, God, higher self, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. So it's not about you, and it's not about what's right or wrong, and it's not about you and your ego and your studies and whatever whatever you've learned. It's what's coming through you, because you're acting as a channel, as a vessel for the other person.
But imagine you're wrong, because this is a question I ask myself a lot. I've read a lot about channeling, vibration, emotional states, blah, blah, blah. Bigger consciousness, that we're all one, the whole spiritual game, right? And imagine if all of it is wrong, like the earth is flat wrong. And I'm teaching this and I'm trying to help people and I'm actually making them worse or not. I don't know, because it's wrong. I don't know.
But first of all, they're making themselves worse. As in, you're not doing the work. You're not making anyone worse.
Depends. If I go to a child and tell them eat meat every day, according to many people, this would be wrong nowadays. And maybe I'm making him sick. Or if I tell a child, don't talk to anybody because talking to people is wrong, I would make that child sick.
Yeah, in extremes, I think. Of course, if you have a very extreme methodology for helping people and it's very rigid, I think then you run more of those risks.
Well, and with spirituality in general, I think we are on a little bit more out there methodologies, aren't we? That's why I'm asking.
Yes.
The responsibility of helping people through this. It could be great, could be amazing, and it probably is, and you've helped a lot of people, but doesn't it scare you? It would scare me.
But it is not, I think, for me personally, as in you have, with medicine, you have people who claim they can heal cancer with whatever, putting stones on somebody's body.
Or even freaking doctors that give you painkillers and anti-anxiety medication. They make you way worse than you were, right?
Yeah, but then we're talking about physical. I would think most people are suffering from like emotional distress and not a lot of physical issues, your clients. Is it more, or maybe it's probably a bit of both, but
it's always combined, right? Because as you said, then eventually it manifests into disease.
But I mean, if you actively recommend against going to see a doctor, you're probably doing something wrong. If you actively same with psychology, if you're actively advising against like regular psychology, is probably wrong. But I think, I mean, most people, since it's not an invasive thing, I would say it's just you're handing them kind of tools, and if it works for them, it's good. But if it doesn't work, you believe that there's a lot of bad things that can happen from, let's say, we introduce these beliefs about spirituality, vibration, or you do some breath work or meditation, or like all these kind of things. Like, are there a lot of, do you perceive the risk of like bad stuff happen? I think it's quite low, the bad risk compared to the upside that it can have.
Same, because spirituality mostly just teaches more love, more compassion, more being togetherness, more helping out each other. All of these things are great and low risk. What I am afraid of is you're changing people's beliefs. And if you change it in the wrong way, that belief may have disastrous consequences, no?
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm hearing is that changing a limited belief in like a kind of unlimited belief, basically trying to change a belief that you're not worthy, or that you cannot do something, and trying to remove that, and trying at least to change it into I can do anything, or I can do this, or I am loved. Like, maybe the method doesn't work for some people, maybe for others, yes. But I find it hard to see personally how something bad can come from that, because it's the same as when we talked to the astral projection coach, Florentine, I think.
Florentine.
Well, Mr. Flo also...
Mr. Flo.
Yeah, his methodology was also about basically you have to remove the limiting beliefs, and then you have a way higher chance of astral projection or lucid dreaming. So like just focusing on removing beliefs is already, I think, a step in the right direction, or at least becoming aware of these things. And that's what I'm hearing. So I think as long as you include that in your kind of like program, like I find it hard to see massive risks as long as you're not like being very in like any organized religion, basically have like a very strict set of rules, and this is a truth, like very dogmatic. As long as you're not dogmatic.
Are you dogmatic?
Are you? That's the question. That's the question. Are you?
Well, that's the beauty about coaching, right? So coaching isn't telling someone this is right or wrong, or this is what you should do. It's guiding someone to find their own answers that come from within. and it's teaching them how to learn how to trust themselves and how to harness their own power. Right. So obviously there's methods, like you said, there's methods and tools that I teach, and there's practices that I teach. And I'm all about like teaching a man how to fish, or teaching a woman how to fish, or non-binary, whatever. Like, I'm just going to give you all the tools. You go and you go and use them. You go and practice them. You teach them to whoever. I don't care. And find what works for you. But let's work together to find what works for you, so that you can inherently trust yourself. Because that's what this journey is about, right? It's learning how can you trust yourself more? How can you express yourself more? How can you learn how to love yourself more, and realize that what you need is within you, so you can always go within. You can always tap into that source within you.
Yeah.
So
I think it can also be difficult, no? As in, everybody has their sets of beliefs. Because yes, as a coach, I agree. Or as a psychologist, you probably... Well, the last thing you want to do is to basically shovel your beliefs system on somebody else.
Which is very hard.
Which is very hard.
Even do it subconsciously,
Of
right?
course.
And by the way, I agree with everything spirituality says, and I really follow it myself, or try to. But still, it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, but somebody got to do it.
Somebody
got to do it. And that somebody is Alexis.
Right. Hold on.
well, the other thing is, don't forget, like, you're drawn to someone inextricably because of who they are and what they stand for, right? So everyone that's drawn to me is they like my energy, or they want to amplify their energy, or they're drawn to that. They want to express themselves more. They want to love themselves more. Or it's been quite confusing to me. And I've been talking to Joshua about this over the last few years, because I've been trying to niche down. And every time I try and niche down, then I get someone else hopping up out of the woodworks like, oh, I want to work with you. I'm like, well, why do you want to work with me? What can I help you with? And at the end of the day, it all comes down to energy. So someone will be drawn to a specific type of coach because of what they believe in, because they automatically resonate with that person, or because they want to be like that person.
Yeah, I've hired one coach in my life, and that is a very small sample, but I've had the exact same experience. Like, there was this guy on YouTube basically making very interesting and empowering videos. It was very energetic and very eloquent and all these kind of things. And I looked at the guy and like, this guy is smart and he has some interesting theories, and I think this guy can help me. But I also believe that he didn't really do the work. I did the work, like his method was good, but basically by allowing myself to open up to any method made the change, right? So my personal belief is that you say you give the people the tools, you teach a non-binary how to fish, and
Non-binary.
non-binary, yeah, or a gender fluid, how to fish, or man, woman.
How to fish.
Everybody, she teaches them how to fish. Like,
Instead of giving the fish, she got it.
Exactly. So the tools, she hands them the tools. And what I have experienced is that what I did was not that special. I mean, there was it was special in a sense, but I think the same change could have been created by just having a coach that you look up to, or you think this person can help me. That changes your own belief, that opens you up to change. And then whatever this person tells you, as long as you execute the steps, I mean, there's again, maybe like 80 or 90% of the things this person will tell you has the potential of helping you just by allowing yourself to be helped and just by trusting in that person. So Alexis can teach breath. I mean, I'm just giving like breath work or meditation, or even just, eating a specific way, or going for a run, or journaling, or changing your energy, like all these kinds of different things. And I think actually it's less important what the method is, and just more important that if someone is attracted to that energy and opens himself up to change, then actually, again, the responsibility you actually have for that person, it's not you who's making the change. It's the person who is actually allowing themselves to be changed and doing it.
But also this, playing the devil's advocate for a little, this sounds dangerously like what Colts did, right? A very high energetic person, very charismatic, changing your beliefs, and then eventually everybody followed that person and took a pill, or whatever.
Yeah, but that's not like, I guess, I mean, yes.
That's why I'm saying there's a certain responsibility, no?
No, it's still the responsibility is always yours.
Okay.
And with cults, like there's probably been many cults, or I mean, a cult is just a religious sect, like a group of people who have a specific belief, like who says what is a cult and what not. And there have been, of course, people in those positions abusing their power, just like with any organization. If there's somebody who has power, like the boss is gonna fuck the secretary, is he not? You know, like these kind of things.
No, not always.
No, I mean not always.
I mean,
exactly. Not,
Joshua.
not always.
What are you confessing here?
Not always. Also, I don't have a secretary, so I'm not allowed to.
Sorry for the tough questions. It's just I like seeing both sides of the picture.
I don't think it's a tough question. I think it's well, at the end of the day, nobody can change your beliefs. You're the only person that can change your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and you're the person that creates that change within you for yourself and your life, right? Coaches, healers, therapists, whatever you want to call yourself, you just act as a conduit. You're there to support, you're there to help guide, mentor, hold energetic space, and create that safe space and create that energy for that person to be able to thrive and to be able to flourish. At the end of the day, the person, like nobody can influence you unless you allow them to, right? So like Joshua said, the change automatically begins when you make that decision that I want to change. And then when you invest in someone, whether it be like financially or emotionally or whatever, and you're like, look, I want to work with this person, or I want to read this book and I want to change, then that's a catalyst. That's how it starts. That's where the domino effect starts. Having someone support you on your journey doesn't mean that they're going to dictate you and they're going to control you and what you think and your actions and your feelings and thoughts and beliefs. They're just there as a guide, and you can choose to take that on or not. And you will be drawn to the person that you feel can help you, but more importantly, to their energy.
Yeah, and I think the responsibility lies with the coachee, not with the coach. Basically, if there's an advertisement on that television in Holland, probably in Spain as well, I don't know, but there's like always this, they have to, for the government, it's like, if you loan money, it's going to cost you money. Like this, basically they have to say that in Dutch. So there's like this warning label, smoking causes cancer, don't smoke, you know? So basically, with coaching, or like probably coaching more because it's not a licensed thing, like there should be a disclaimer, I guess, being like that somebody can help you, but it's always going to be your responsibility. The responsibility is not on anybody else to save you. The responsibility, if you want to see a coach, okay, then you have to understand that you have to approach it in a way that you look at their methods and you just try it out. But this coach is not God, and like you have the responsibility to filter and to think critically and apply what works for you. And then if that doesn't work, then stop.
But if you're depressed out of your ass, you're in an extremely vulnerable position. And if somebody then suggests certain things and you believe those things, then that person might send you down a completely wrong road, even though it's your responsibility. Yeah, I agree, but it's on both sides.
But I mean, there's like two different things. You can have like malpractice, that someone who just sucks at what they do, so a very, 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 very extremely bad coach, who is just like someone is depressed and the guy, I don't know, he's gonna say, what you should do is you should sit in your room for 2 weeks straight, just watch television, eat candy.
And ice cream as much as you can.
Exactly.
Don't accept any calls. Don't reply any text.
So that's just someone who
do any sports.
Bad at their job. But these people, they shouldn't do their job. But I mean, again, free world coaching is not a licensed thing. So, but again, like, and
should it be?
I don't think so, because it's very difficult to define. No.
What do you think, Alexis?
A lot of coaches have licenses. Most coaches have certifications.
Yeah, but certifications are not like psychology has a government backing, basically. Like at least in Holland and many countries, you have certain professions that are protected. Like you cannot call yourself a psychologist, but anyone can call themselves a coach. I can be a coach now. I am now a coach.
What is coaching? Now, do you think they should have like an official government issued license after a university career or whatever?
I don't think so. Reason being is I've worked with a lot of coaches and I know a lot of coaches. For me, the most effective ones aren't the ones that have studied, but the ones that have lived through it. Like, I want to work with someone with real life experience. I want to work with someone that I resonate with, that I can see myself in, who's been through the same journey as me or has been through the same journey as me and got the results that I want, and that embody the beliefs and the values and energy that I want to have.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the most important thing, because they've lived it, they've breathed it, they are it, and I can see myself similar to that person.
Yeah, I think that the people that can actually help you, as in, they won't study to be a coach. As in,
Yeah.
there are people who are so like truly themselves and authentic and live life and go, like, they are like brave enough to not rely on literature and what has been discovered, but really go by their own felt experience and intuition, and are grounded in reality instead of basically trying to study something and then applying a method. There's a very different, very big difference there. I studied psychology, and like, if you look at the classes, you're like, yeah, these people are going to be psychologists. Like,
scary, right?
Like, exactly, because
in Argentina, every crazy girl I met, what's your major? Psychology.
So that's the point. Like, somebody who is like, there are great psychologists and there are great psychiatrists, but there are probably, from the people who choose to do that, like, they also just, like, in a sense, you give away a lot of power. And with psychology, if you study something from a book that you don't have any physical connection to the reality of the thing, so basically, you study a method, like, you have to do this, and this in talk therapy and blah, 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 but you don't, it's not a lived experience at first, at least, right? And it's also, you're going by somebody else's framework instead of relying on your own, like, felt experience. And I think that's a huge problem with how things are taught, that everything is standardized to the extent that we're not trained to be open, but actually we're more trained to become like robot-like in our procedures, and there's a specific thing for everything. And that might work for many people, but that leaves a gap for people who I think coaches can fill very well. I count myself in those gaps, because going to a psychologist, probably because I studied psychology, I am just like, yeah, these people, what do they know? What do they know? Sorry.
But it cannot apply to everything, because you cannot have, you don't have to experience a double personality disorder or
exactly.
being a psychopath or whatever in order to be able to help a psychopath.
No, that's exactly the point. Like, there are very specific, I think, this, like, psychological illnesses that we understand quite well, and we have a very good treatment methods for. But that, if you look at depression or like anxiety, many other things, of course, there's also treatment methods for that. But there's, like, these causes are so, like, spread out. It's not a simple thing. Like, maybe if you have like a borderline, let's say a borderline personality, that's probably coming from a specific genetic your genetics, and probably a specific role in your upbringing, right? You had a parent who acted in a specific way. There's a quite a clear cause for many diseases, but depression is so like widespread, and so can have so many different causes that I think that for a lot of general things, or like life coaching, or like mild depression, or being unhappy in a relationship, I think, going by the book might oftentimes lose compared to having a conversation and being truly present and listening to the person, and then going by what you know. Of course, you still have your experience and have studied and read things, but to basically not be working within a system where you have a specific procedure, but being able to combine all of those things into what feels right in the moment, and like make decisions with your full being instead of your cognitive part. Like, I think there's value for that. And I agree. I think the psychologists, they can cover a lot of the more difficult cases, like the more extreme mental illnesses, like psychologists and psychiatrists.
I would love to have a psychologist right now at this table and to have you guys go at it. Like,
But then the coaches, I think many people could use a coach. Not everybody needs a psychologist, but many people can probably benefit from, like, maybe they're a bit confused, they don't know what they want, they don't know what they want, they're slightly depressed or whatever, and then I think coaches can help a lot.
Sorry, go. Yeah.
Also, just finishing up, also because they have the ability, because they're not in that certification system, they have the ability to say, like, okay, what I think you should do is do some breath work and foam rolling, and I'm doing jumping jacks, and then smile to your organs in the morning, and it's all gonna be good, you know? A psychologist cannot do that. Well, actually, the other approach might work. So if the more you standardize everything, the less you lose any freedom to do these crazy things, because it's not, the system cannot accept that within the frame of psychology. So if you want to certify coaches, you're gonna get
very good reason the system cannot accept it.
Yeah, there's a good reason for that, I think.
Because the doctors recommended leeches to suck out your bad humors not 50 years ago. And that wasn't scientifically peer-reviewed, or however you say that. So nowadays, when you suggest smiling to your organs, maybe it's not good for you. Who knows?
Yeah, but I think it's good for society mainly. It's also very good for the individual, because you don't want many people exploiting other people, right? So the more you put limits on what a psychologist and doctor can do, the more you are sure that most people get a treatment that is not going to kill them and has a high chance of working out, basically.
Safer treatment.
Yeah, exactly. And this goes with everything. But at the same point, the more you standardize and limit everything, the more people rely on the external system to basically, the less people are reliant on themselves. They externalize their confidence or their ability, that they trust in the doctor, they trust in the psychologist, and the psychologist trusts in their system. But the people themselves, like, I've told this a couple of times more about the smiling to my organs. Like, there's nothing that can be, I mean, what can be bad about it? You sit down, you close your eyes, like, I'm going to smile to my spleen. Like, it's ridiculous. It's fine. But basically, if you build a system where you, like, on a societal level, there's taboos and beliefs, and then I guess you as an individual, you don't have that much freedom to actually try things out yourself, because you're trained from a young age to just rely on what the structure in the society is. You understand a bit? Or?
I understand exactly what you're saying, but on the other hand, where does it end? Because it starts with smiling to your organs, then the next step is elevate your energy by going running nude through the forest, then the next step, I know, then the next, then there's always going to be the person proposing or something a little bit more extreme, and that's why this whole system was built in the first place, right?
Yeah, the system should be there, but also the non-standardized things should still exist. Both are necessary.
I think so too. And I think she's doing a great job just by being a coach and helping these people, but still a responsibility. But closing up on this, because we've been going on for a while.
Have you recommended people to seek, like, treatment from a psychiatrist or psychologist ever? That's actually an interesting question.
No, one of the methodologies I studied includes psychotherapy. So what I found is there's a lot of hybrid license certifications coming out, and one of them I studied. So that combines psychotherapy, NLP, cognitive behavior therapy, and hypnosis. And that's actually going into schools, it's going into hospitals. So it's going the other way, right? So instead of just sticking with standardized psychology or psychotherapy or talk therapy, now the medical system is moving more towards adopting holistic methods, which is great. So it's a hybrid formation of both, and that's what doctors are starting to use, which is amazing. So it's going the other direction, which is fantastic.
So you're saying that there's more, like, out there methods that are, or at least according to, let's say, 50 years ago, that are now slowly getting reintroduced or introduced within the medical practice, and that are being combined into treatment therapy. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. So the method that I studied, that's been incorporated into the British system, which is incredible, right? And so what we're finding is sovereignty. Sovereignty is the answer to everything, because it's like you said, it's ideal, it's self-responsibility. You as a patient get to decide, here's all the options that are here on the table, which one do you want to choose? And it's the same thing with cancer treatments, right? There's holistic, there's I don't know what it's called, pills, etc., chemo. So you get to choose, you have ultimate sovereignty, you get to choose what method, because at the end of the day, it's for you and your benefit and your health and your well-being.
That's a beautiful ideal, but can people actually do that? And that's, I think, where your point
that's where she
came from.
Yeah, but now switching sides.
Yeah.
I love it because she tries to give people the confidence to choose for themselves.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. It's a great.
And
but are we...
many people, especially with cancer, they go like, okay, give me the chemo, and maybe chemo ain't right for you at all. And they still go ahead and they lose all their head and then they're dead or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, giving people the confidence to choose for themselves, I think, is the right way to go, 100%. You always have to look at both sides. Another question, since you work in this area, why do you think there's so much depression, so much lack of love for oneself nowadays in the world?
I honestly think it's down to societal programming and conditioning and norms. So especially culturally. So we're brought up to be in toxic masculine energy, right? So at the moment, like that's my jam at the moment. I'm so into yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's all about energy, right? Like my new program is all about powerful feminine energy, because it doesn't exist.
You mean toxic feminine energy?
No, powerful feminine energy, right? So there's 5 archetypes. So there's toxic or wounded. So it's the same thing. Toxic or wounded masculine energy, toxic or wounded feminine energy, healed feminine energy, healed masculine energy. But there's no, which is yin and yang, right? But there's no concept that integrates both.
Okay.
Right? So toxic masculinity is the controlling, it's the hustle, it's the force, it's dominating, it's possessive, it's all of those things. And we're brought up in toxic masculinity energy culture.
And what's toxic femininity?
So toxic femininity is the opposite. Toxic femininity is submissive, it's passive, it's really, really insecure,
controlling.
No.
It's not control. So a woman who is like controlling a man, is she still being toxically masculine? Okay. Or how does that work?
Oh, this is really good, right? So this is energy. This isn't sexes. Okay? So if you look at yin and yang, so yin and yang is essentially what this is built on, right? So yin and yang is the duality and polarity. So we need both. So every single human, irrespective of whatever gender or stereotypical identity you associate with or you identify with, whether it be gender fluid, binary, non-binary, male, female, whatever, intersex, then you still have masculine and feminine energy within you.
I think you're naming it that, you're basically shaming half of the population, because let's just say the values you just said, toxic femininity, are basically, I would say, even aligned with Christianity, as in you're too passive, you're too this, like, all like, oh my God, you're like a victim, and that's then toxic femininity. But toxic masculinity, you say it has nothing to do with the man, but masculinity has the word has a direct connection to males, and that's also how it's perceived a lot. So if we frame it as toxic masculinity, don't you think that we are basically shaming men inadvertently by choosing those words?
No, because you can identify as a man or not. So
that's
masculinity.
That's not how it works.
But masculinity doesn't mean man.
Yeah, but that's, I mean,
the first thing, Joshua, and I thought when you started the conversation was like, okay, this is again man fucking up. Or at least I thought it. It's like toxic masculinity. And I agree, by naming these things this way, I think we're creating more separation and more alienation between the sexes.
But it's not about sex.
But it is. If you say masculine and feminine, that is basically sex.
If you would call it yellow and
if you call it yin and yang energy, like you just said, it would be different.
But then it could also be like black and white energy. If you go to
that's also not. We call it
everything has connotations, right?
Masculine, obviously. I mean, now we live in a strange time, but most men, they would, if they hear toxic masculinity, they will feel like it's something about male energy or the things that men do that is bad. And the things that you just said about toxic femininity, again, It's like things that women do that make themselves a victim. It's not something that women are doing to men. No. Toxic femininity is women being not in their power or being bad to themselves. And toxic masculinity is basically males or masculine energy, which people would like conflate with being a male. That's basically victimizing other people and mostly females. So that's kind of the wording. If it's true what you're saying, it's not about men or women. It's we have to change the terminology. Otherwise, we're only gonna create more conflict between the same, like the men, the women, the blacks, the whites, like whatever. Like if we start, we need to change the terminology.
True, but what would you name it to? Because yin and yang is masculine.
Tomato.
That's a good.
But that's my.
At least it's a clay.
Yeah, but it is. What do you mean? A word is a word. So yin and yang is masculine, feminine energy. It's just a word. Like you can call it tomato and potato energy.
You could call it, if you're talking about polarity, pole A, pole B. A and
No,
B.
exactly.
Like things that don't have another connotation to the word, because especially with feminism now on the table, with non-binarism, it's fluid sex, blah, blah, blah. All these things are making the life between the sexes very hard. And people are pushing themselves apart a lot. Lately, at least what I see out on the streets and with people I meet, I think everybody needs to start working together more in general, even if that's not what you're talking about right now. You're just talking about energy. Energy A and energy B. Energy A is more overpowering, energy B more victimizing. But if we keep referring to it as masculine versus feminine, the men and women or people in the world will never start working together.
No, they will automatically take it as to mean male or female energy, or like sex or gender, or however you like the gender or sex you have. You would, if it's like toxic masculinity, most people will think it's just about men being assholes because they're men. Oh, that's it.
But everyone has male and female energy within them. That's yin and yang, right?
A and B energy.
Yeah, A and B energy, right? So
yeah, but you say that, but we are all enlightened creatures here, of course, and we've read many books, and we know all about the energies. But the person working in the bakery or sweeping the streets, you're gonna say like we all have masculine and feminine energy inside of us. They're like, yeah, whatever, I'm a man. Like I have a penis, I'm a man. I bake my bread, it's all good. You know, it's
horrible. What stereotype? Generalization.
Why? What is?
But okay, so. Okay, in answer to your question, what I think the issue is societal norms and conditioning. So this is a perfect example of that, right? I brought up toxic, wounded masculine, wounded feminine, or toxic masculine, toxic feminine energy. And then you both automatically assumed that it was in relation to a man being an asshole, which is societal conditioning and programming. For me, that's bullshit. That's the issue.
No, that's the word you choose. If you would say toxic A energy, then nobody would have had the association, because you call it toxic masculinity, which is about masculine traits which are connected to people with peni.
But then there's a lot of men with a lot of feminine energy.
Yeah, but again, you understand the problems with the word, as in I agree, like people can identify and have different energy types, but you could also call it more caring energy, or more passive energy, and more active energy, and more dominating energy, right? But the moment you start using everybody gets their panties in a bunch when you start calling it toxic masculinity. You understand that triggers people, or that it's more difficult to basically have an open conversation about what the concept even is that you want to discuss, because people are immediately being put in like a conflict situation, like, you know, they have to defend their manhood or their womanhood because of the words the society chooses.
Yeah, yes and no. I think it's a term that's so healed masculine, healed feminine, wounded masculine, wounded feminine. It's already out there. Like it's just like non-binary gender fluid. They're already staple set terms that explain how someone is, or how they identify themselves by.
Yes, there's many words that are out there, and I can say many of them, and I cannot say them on the podcast. But
Yes, you can.
No,
Yes, you can.
but you cannot say the N word or even the R word we have. There's many words that over time have changed because we realize they're kind of shitty words. So there's not a reason for us to keep on using the same words. Definitely not if it's creating more conflict.
What about wounded masculine?
Yeah, but why does it have to be masculine?
Because it is.
So what is
Wounded
that's okay?
masculine.
What is wounded masculine energy? Maybe
Okay.
we could talk a bit about that.
All right. So how is your time though? How long is it your normal?
This is infinite time until one of us is tired. You can stop whenever you want.
Okay. So let's talk about it in relation to power, right?
Okay.
So someone who is in their wounded masculine wants to control the power,
Mm.
right? So he or she.
Or
I'm like, I've got a lot of wounded masculine energy. I think a lot of people do.
okay.
So wounded masculine energy is controlling, it's dominating, but that's coming from a place of wanting to have that power, right? So it's classical narcissistic energy, basically.
Do more men have this energy?
Let's not get stuck here.
Okay, so this is what I want to bring to the table, right? So
Because what you were saying is social conditioning is making everybody depressed.
Yeah, right.
That's why she has jobs, no?
yeah, well, primarily yes, but I actually don't really work with a lot of depressed
No?
people. Most people, yeah, people don't come to me. I've had some depressed people, but everyone comes to me with varied issues, and it's mainly because they want to uplift and they want to
Keep
level
growing.
their lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's just a good point. We should probably go back to, like you're saying, you're working a lot with toxic masculinity and also toxic feminine.
Oh no, what I want to focus on now, like what I'm moving towards is how to help people to embrace both energies, but healed energies, right? So wounded on both spectrums. So you've got essentially easiest way to understand this, and let's take away the sexes. Let's talk about yin and yang. So yin is black, yang is white, right? So we're looking at the yin and yang colors.
Let it go.
And with yin and yang, so black is the more feminine energies. So more feminine energy. So if you look at, so you imagine a square, and there's 4 different quadrants. So there's a healed quadrant, healed masculine, healed feminine, wounded masculine, wounded feminine, right? So if you're in your healed feminine, that means that you are into intuition, into embodiment, into flow. You feel really confident, powerful. You feel really sexual, and you embody and you embrace that energy. And you're like, yes, this is me. I'm owning it. I'm owning who I am. I'm owning my body. I'm not afraid to show it. I'm really proud of myself. I'm really confident, and I trust my intuition and I trust my flow, right? So that's healed feminine energy. You're into receiving and allowing and trusting, and it's the surrendering energy. Okay? So wounded feminine energy is really, really insecure. It's manipulative. It's, I don't believe that I'm worthy, I'm undeserving, I need lots of validation, and you seek validation from outside of you. Okay? So let's take away sexes completely, because I'm going to talk about this in different areas of your life as well. And then you've got healed masculine energy. So healed masculine energy is the strong leader. It's a leader that doesn't need to control, but the leader that supports. It's the leader that is, I will hold space for you, I've got you, I'm protective, I'm strong, and I don't need to control the outcome. I take action because I've listened to the feminine part of me. I've gone, okay, my intuition says this, and then I actually go and do it. So it's that part of you that lives in alignment. And then you've got your wounded masculine, and your wounded masculine is the insecure, trying to control everything, like trying to work really, really hard. Society lives in wounded masculine because it's the hustle culture, it's the force culture. It's like, I have to do this, I have to dominate, I have to win, like overly competitive, overly aggressive, etc. So what we want is we want a balance of both. And so just one quick last thing. And then so you have all these different 4 energy archetypes, right? And you will be operating in more of one area in different areas of your life, in health, in wealth, in relationships, depending upon what kind of relationships. So it's looking at, where am I on this scale? Where am I in this quadrant of relationships with my partner, relationships with my family, relationships with my colleagues, in how I work? And how can I be more balanced so I can have a combination of the healed energies of both?
And that's where you want society to be.
That's what I'm working on now.
No, but society in general, if it was living in both healed energies, there would be a lot more happy people around.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then it's not so much about, so for example, wounded feminine energy, people pleasing, caring about what other people think. That's also very, very wounded masculine. And it's that perfectionistic culture. I have to be this, right? Whereas if you're in the healed energies of both, it's, this is who I am, deal with it. Take it or leave it. And you're owning who you are, what you stand for, what you do, irrespective of what other people think. And that energy is highly, 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 it's not just attractive, but it's magnetic to everybody. And if you can apply that version of you, because essentially that's your natural state, right? Like when you're a baby doesn't give a shit if their thighs look fat. A baby doesn't give a shit about trying to get all the toys. A child is born into the world full of love and wanting to play. That is our natural state. It's how can we return back to that natural state?
Oh, I was crying all the time for the first 2 years, just saying. But yeah, you're right. I mean,
Doesn't surprise me.
Still am. Well, but it's true. Like, it's also with the dog I have. You look at the dog doesn't give a fuck. Like,
Exactly.
he's just walking around. Everyone's looking at him, smiling, and he's just like, I'm alive. It's awesome. And he doesn't care about...
But isn't that utopia? Because when would we get shit done?
So you still do, but you're acting from your intuition, right? So what I primarily work with is helping people to love themselves, helping people to trust themselves and their intuition, take action from that aligned space. So you're not taking action because you're in like complete hustle. You're taking action from going, okay, what does my mind, body, and soul tell me to do? What feels really right and true and light for me? And take action from that space.
And does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. And express themselves. I think that's the biggest thing that people come to me with now, because they want to just really be more of who they are and feel confident in themselves. So,
But does it work in the society as we have it constructed?
No.
That's what I'm...
Cannot work. If everybody would be healed, we wouldn't have iPhones.
Exactly. You wouldn't hustle.
No, we would want to be work in a factory with iPhones. Like, yeah, whatever.
You would watch Instagram. There would be
on
so
Instagram,
many things that wouldn't work. Maybe for the better.
Yeah. But
Probably
it would be
for
a
the
different
better.
society.
But could you survive in a society like this if you are actually living from healed A and B energy, or masculine and feminine, whatever? Could you survive in today's society?
yeah,
Which is
thrive in
Why not?
today's society.
because the society is construed on hurt female energy.
Yeah, but just
Or
dancing in the
masculine
street like Alexis does. Like, she
And
goes rollerblading through the street in her anime persona, and everyone's like, yo, what the hell? That's awesome. I want to be like this.
And then someone watches that story, it's like, I want to work with that. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, but like, that's the thing. I think, I don't know about the whole energy things and stuff and how you would define it, but like, one of the things that I always have appreciated about Alexis is that, like, I don't know many people who are less, like, how do you say it? Like, Alexis is the least afraid, I think, person to really express herself in the way she dresses or how colorful she is and how animated her personality is. Like, I don't think I know anyone like Alexis, and I think many people can learn a lot from that, because if we talk about confidently being different than anyone around you and just not giving a fuck, I think you are definitely crushing it. So congratulations on that.
Hey.
And I think, like, I don't know, so that's probably difficult to transfer. I wouldn't know, because I can imagine people seeing you, and probably mostly women, like, whoa, this girl has so much energy and she doesn't care. Like, is it difficult to transfer? Like, I know we spoke a bit about like the methods, but like, are there clients specifically, you said they're specifically working for you about energy and changing their energy? Like, what are the results? Like, what did clients say? Like, do they feel more, can they drop it all? Like, the whole thing, that caring about what people say? Are they more, more connected to their femininity, or all these kind of things? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
what happened?
So I think one of my favorite latest stories is I have this client, and so I have this rule. I only work with soulmate tribe clients. So soulmate tribe clients to me are people who I absolutely love and adore. And to the point where I love them so much that I would go traveling with them, because I feel like if you're going to go traveling with someone, like, you really have to fucking love them. So I want to work with soulmate tribe clients. So we have that a relationship.
Soulmate what?
Soulmate tribe.
Soulmate tribe. Okay.
Soulmate
Right.
tribe.
And there's a couple. So one of my clients at the moment, she's done the most amazing things. So she had a lot of issues about body image. She had eating disorders, and a couple of wins from the last, and this was really, really quick. We've only been working with each other for a few weeks, but she told me the other day that it was the first day that she's ever gone to work without makeup on, which is huge, right? Like, she was very, very insecure about, like, as you can imagine, eating disorders, very insecure about like her body, etc. Now she just owns it. And then the other reason why she wanted to come work with me was she wanted a freedom-based lifestyle, right? Because if you think about it, if you really love and trust and respect yourself and you express yourself, you want to live your best fucking life. So essentially that's the end goal for most of my clients. And
Well, what's the freedom-based lifestyle? Can you explain a little bit more?
so she was working in a job where she didn't want, and she wanted a bit of a more nomadic lifestyle, a nomadic job, but doing what she loved, like thriving being her, getting paid to be her. She's quit her job. She's making money. Won't say what she's doing, because that's her journey to kind of like let people know in the future. But that happened really quickly, and she's really, really happy. So that's one example. A lot of men that I work with, they come to me because they want to learn how to love and express themselves so they can be in a relationship. And that happens really, really quickly. So, because, you think about it, right? Like, if you can learn how to communicate your feelings and express yourself and be really comfortable with who you are, you get into a relationship very, very quickly. So that happens really quickly. Another one was, this is probably one of my favorite ones, where we identified that he was living out of alignment and that was draining him, and he was just very, very unhappy with his life. And now he is crushing it. Like, he is traveling the world, making loads of money, like really, really happy, but doing everything that he wants to do. So he's magnetizing his desires to him because he's just living in his authentic truth.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
Sounds
it's really
great.
nice.
And then let's wrap it up quickly, but soon. We've been talking for quite some time, but which is awesome, by the way. Thank you very much. The girl you spoke about with the eating disorder and the makeup, like, what were some specific things that you did with this specific client? You don't have to go into the details, but again, I'm interested in, like, what exactly got her, or what did she take away from the things that you did to get her to the point of being like, fuck it, I'm gonna change this, and it's the first time I'm just not gonna wear makeup, and fuck it, that's who I am now, and the world better deal with it.
Okay, so I think, this actually goes in alignment with one of the questions Luciano asked about before about accreditations or experience. A lot of how I help my clients is sharing my experience, is sharing my stories, is sharing who I was and who I am now. Because I think if you were to look at me, you would see me as confident, as not giving a fuck. Because I wear what I want, I do what I want, I act how I want. But it took a lot of work for me to get here, right? So when someone opens up to you, and someone isn't afraid of being vulnerable, and I share a lot of that stuff on social media. There's so many videos of me ugly crying on social media.
How do people find you?
Generally through Instagram, TikTok. I run webinars.
I meant, what's your Instagram?
Oh, Alexis Sarah Nee.
Can you spell that?
Yeah. ALEXIS SARAH N for November double E. Thank you.
Well,
So I think three of my greatest gifts. One is I have the ability to see exactly what's blocking someone and feel into what's blocking them and know where it is and know what it is. And that's just through practice and through intuition. So I can identify that really quickly, and I can coach them through that, or shift that energy, or remove that energy for them, or help them to remove that energy very quickly. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the power of stories and being really, really openly vulnerable and sharing everything that I've been through. And through that, someone really sees that, wow, you see me, you feel me, you get me, you know where I am, and I can now see that.
Yeah, see, it's possible.
Yeah, exactly. It's possible. And that's why I resonate really strongly with coaches or anyone that I work with, because I want to see what's possible.
Yeah.
And I won't necessarily follow your method with it because everybody's different, but it's looking and going, okay, well, if you can do that, I can do that too, right? That makeup thing was huge. And now I've got a lot of friends that are doing the same thing because like, and I actually shared it on social media. I shared videos of me what I look like when I was 25, 26, and I look infinitely younger and I have way more energy now.
That's a lot.
Did you see that?
Infinitely younger. No, I haven't seen it. No.
Oh, I'll show you. Okay, so that's the other thing. And then the third thing is coming up. I have this ability to come up with a process or a structure that works well for them.
Oh.
And it's just something that comes intuitively. It's like I was coaching my best friend on how to be a coach a few days ago. And I know, I can see, because I'm a very kinesthetic empath, like I can see and I can feel things, like clairaudient and clairsentient. So I can see, I can feel things, and I just know intuitively, like, this is what will work for you. This is the process. Because I have that ability of being able to go, okay, here are the 3 steps that you're already doing. Let's bring that to your awareness so you can follow that. And this is your power. So it's showing someone, like, this is your light, like shine that light so fucking bright. And then when they take the actions to do it, it's like fire. So with one of my clients she's like a really famous TEDx speaker, we created a vision for her in week 1. And by week 6, she was freaking the fuck out. She was like, Alexis, I've hit most of it. Like, it's just happening too quickly. Oh my God. And that's amazing to see and experience, because when you get to, when you show someone, this is your power and this is what's possible for you, as long as when you allow yourself to be it and embrace it, that's everything.
Yeah, I think if you show the example, like talking about your story, you connect and you create, basically you reflect back about their story, about their person, that you see that they also have it in them. Plus you give them an approach to how to deal with it, a good process. I mean, I think is a pretty strong package to change your life, because I mean, the belief that you can do it. We spoke about it with Annika, with the breath work, and I have my own experience that I also have had this belief always that, like, I can do it. If anyone else can do it, I can do it. So, I mean, not anyone else, but if you can do it, then I can do it. So if you were basically saying this, that what I hear is that you show that somebody can do it by your story, and then you show that they can do it by analyzing or like feeling what they are giving to you, and then actually creating the steps. I mean, that sounds and then the combination with them hiring you, so basically giving opening up to everything in that process, that sounds like a pretty badass method to change your life. Yeah, that's awesome.
I think the last thing's probably the most important. So it's 3 Bs. So helping them change their beliefs, catching them on their bullshit, and showing them their blind spots.
The 3 Bs.
Exactly. Because
there's a 4th B.
What's the 4th?
It's the B of goodbye. Okay, sorry. Good one.
Okay, so just wrapping that out really quickly, it's, we operate through patterns, and a lot of our patterns are self-sabotaging, which is their bullshit stories and their bullshit actions that we're taking. So if you're seeing a coach consistently and they really, and they know you and they've been through what you've been through, it's like, okay, I'm calling out your bullshit right now. You're people pleasing at the moment, and they're like, oh shit. It's like, okay, great. And this is your blind spot. The reason why you're doing this is because you feel X, Y, Z. So I know intuitively how they're feeling, because I feel it too. And I'm one of those, like Joshua is as well, one of those empaths where, like, if they have a headache, I have a headache, and like I can feel it where it is in their body. So they literally can't call bullshit. They can't bullshit me, because I'm like, I'm feeling what you're feeling, and this is what you're blocked. So I think that's the power of, like having a coach, but having a coach who's also like quite energetic, because they can't pull the shade over you.
Can't be bullshitted.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
And with this, Alexis, we thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming and
awesome
sharing.
Conversation.
Thanks, guys.
Alexis, thank you very much. See ya next time. Ciao for now.
Ciao, ciao. Eyes on Growth is an original podcast produced by Inkululeku Studios, hosted by Joshua Mullendakes and Luciano Anz, editing by Sofia Vicente. Thank you for listening, and keep an eye out for our upcoming episode.